The theme for this month is callings, based on the Rev Duchess book. And today's topic or title of what I want to talk about is called Answers, because we've been building about paying attention to the calling, and I would be doing you a disservice if we didn't talk about answering the call. So this morning was interesting in that I think the universe was trying to get me to be so fully present and aware of my own teaching. You know, they say you teach what you have to learn. Are you listening, Duchess? Hello. Okay. So the calling. So the morning started out unusually in that I woke up at 4:30 to do my transcendental meditation, and I went, oh, well, that's kind of early. I'll just go back to sleep for a little while. Okay. And then I hear Don puttering and getting ready to leave, and it's like, oh my God, it's after 8. Okay, get up, fine. Centered, I'm whole, I do all my stuff. I'm good, I'm great. Finish up the stuff on my talk, and I send that out. Get ready to print it, and the brand new black ink printer that we bought would print. I was like, okay, try this, and let it print. And of course, Donna's already here. My print master is already here. So then I get this brilliant idea. I went, well, I'll print it in color, because we just bought a new color cartridge. I'll splurge and print it in color so that I have it. So I change the color, I print it in color. Won't print because for some reason it needs the black ink to help with the coloring. I don't understand that, but okay. So then I say, well, what shall I do? You're supposed to do this talk without all these wonderful notes and quotes? No. So I send it to myself. I email it to myself here, and I print it, and I open it up, and Microsoft Word is corrupted or discombobulated or whatever it is that's not working, and it won't print. So being the luck of the Irish, I know it's still Green Week. I have a new best friend, and Kyle Bailey, thank you. Kyle Bailey, thank you. So he comes in and he's watching this maelstrom of what's going on in my brain. He goes, what's up? I tell him, and he said, well, why don't you print it from the other computer, email it to that computer and print it. So I did. So in the middle of all this, oh, and did I mention that while the printer wasn't working at home, I hear this strange sound and I think aliens are landing, and I go in and it's the toilet is backed up. I forgot to tell you. So it has been this kind of a interesting morning to get me to the place of paying attention to what's calling. And sometimes what's calling is right in front of you. And in this case, like telling you my long story, is that it's as these things were, I don't want to say unfolding because I didn't feel like it was unfolding. I felt like it was, meteor shower, is that I was not being mindful and paying attention all the time. And so I started, once the idea of printing in color didn't work, suddenly it felt like it was all unraveling. I thought, wait a minute, where am I going to, and then the aliens in the bathroom, and then all of this, and then getting here, and it's like, okay, what's this all about? What's it all about? It's about the calling. It's about, see, I can feel it. It's about what I have to share with you today. I'm sharing from such a deep space because it is really, really up for me. It is really a tender thing. I am, I sleep, this is next to the bed, and I sometimes think if I put it under the pillow, that the literary angels would just somehow into me so that all of it would be mine just innately. And the irony is, it is mine innately. It is. I just have the luxury this month of referencing it and teaching it to you and being prepared for next week when Mr. Lavoie joins us for his next book, which I'm also reading. And the reason I chose that Katy Perry song, which I chose yesterday before all of the stuff unraveled today, was, if you haven't heard it, I suggest you do, and I'll loan you the CD if you don't know it. It's really about, it says, say what you want to say. Be brave, it's called brave. Be brave enough to say what you want to say. And that's what it takes for listening to your calling. Be brave enough to listen to the call. Be brave enough to say what you want to say that's from your heart. And I used a quote earlier this month, and it's worth it again. It's called Young. What did you do as a child that made the hours pass like minutes? Therein lies the key to your earthly pursuits. So it is time to pay attention, to be brave enough to pay attention to the calls and to the signs. Now, it could be signs as simple as get a new ink cartridge. could be, you know. I mean, that sounds goofy, but perhaps you're thinking, oh, well, I'll get it later, or I can print a different color, or I don't need it, or I want to save money this month, blah, 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 I don't have a coupon, you know. Whatever it is, you're not paying attention to the signs and the calls of the universe. And what happens, as I know, if you're not paying attention to the sign and the call within you, that's when the external worldly signs start, you know, running in your face, like ink cartridges not printing, toilets exploding, and all these things that happen on the external world to get your attention to become still and listen. And listening is one of the hardest things that we do. It's the easiest thing. We hear. I mean, yay, you know, we have the 2 ears, we have that. There are even wonderful devices that assist people in hearing better again. So we hear, but do we listen? When the calls come to us, the little external worldly ones, the little ones, or the bigger, pay attention, you know, the one that sounds like James Earl Jones, you know, or use the force, Luke, you know, that one, whatever it is. When we don't listen to those calls, we need to listen. And in Mr. Lavoie's book, which you can find anything, I think he's moving this up to out of my top 5. You've got the, you know, Ernest Holmes in this, and there's a quote from amazing author Paul Tillich, who once said, "The first duty of love is to listen." Now, you all know, most of you who've been here long enough know that on an unusual Sunday, when I get up and I'm completely centered and know what the heck I'm doing, I often ask you that question, my question. How may I love you today? And some of you smile and giggle, and some of you is like, yeah, you say that a lot. But the point being is that most of the time, I won't admit, I don't do it 100% of the time. There's stuff going on. Most of the time, I listen to your answer. And some of you answer directly, and some of you answer by not answering, and some of you answer later when I see you, you know, as you go out and hug and kiss me, or when you call that week. The point being is that the first duty of love is to listen. And then Mr. Roy goes on saying, but listening is hard work. The discipline of paying close attention to ourselves, to the vital signs that blip across the screen of our lives in forms such as dreams, intuitions, feedback, and longing. That will help us know what our calls are. This practice of listening will tell us what's true and what's not, when to proceed and when to postpone, whom to trust and whom to not trust, which direction to take at the crossroads, and whose voices are brawling in our heads, what's right for us, and where we're willing to be led. Where are we willing to be led? Well, there's two important things about that question. Where are we willing to be led? Yes, where are we willing, you know, what is the direction, what is the path that leads before us? But to me, the word in that sentence that really resonates and has vibration is willing. Each of us, somewhere along the path, I would almost guarantee, has had a call that we've answered, or we've at least listened to. But because of what it stirred up within us, we weren't always willing to answer it. And there are probably calls right now in this room for each of us that we're unwilling to answer. I'll use the metaphor of you're on the phone and you get another call and you put the first call on hold to answer that. And so I believe that there are calls, little ones and the bigger ones, that we're putting on hold or we're unwilling to answer. Why? Well, golly, gosh, we've got a lifetime. Anyone here, I think everyone here is over the age of 21, I believe. Chronologically, I mean. I know your inner child is young. Therefore, we've had a life. We've had a history. We have had chapters and verse of experiences, and some of which were not necessarily easy or pleasant, right? And the interesting thing is, according to science, and according to the two doctors, Waldman and Newberg, in the Science of My Magazine article, they say that 90% of our fears, worries, and doubts are simply projections of memories into today. And that our brain tends to be wired more for remembering the failures and the negativity than it is the joys. Well, on Thursday morning we talked about that in the circle because all of us took umbrage to that. What do you mean? That we're going to memorize and we're going to imprint those negativities. No, we don't do that. Well, yes, we do. And I've been thinking about it since Thursday a lot because I think we were jarred by that. And I thought, well, you know why? Because the natural order of things, being joy and ease and flow and love, happens so spontaneously, so all the timeness, that's not word, that we don't have to memorize them. They don't get imprinted because the idea is to be in it and allow it all the time. Hence mindfulness, hence being present now, because it's joyous right now. Right in this second, you and I, everything is perfect. The minute you take a breath and you go, yeah, but you have moved into the future thinking about, well, I have to go and see my landlord today and say that I can't pay the rent. Or you moved into the past saying, oh no, I have to call my aunt. And every time I call my aunt, it's chaos and hell and pain. You're not in the present moment because you're either pasteurizing or futurizing. But by being right here, right now, is there a funny slide behind me? By being right here, right now, you're in the perfection of this moment. It is joy, it is light, it is health, it is wholeness, it is abundance. It's all of that. So what is it about our brain with that 90% thing? Well, when a negative thing happens, it impresses itself. That's why many of the holistic practitioners, particularly body workers, talk about when something has happened to you negatively, it impresses in the body and they work to release it from the cells as well as the chakras and all the energy fields because the body goes and it impresses. And then we walk around, we're almost like a living decoupage of the snapshots of the stuff, the dark stuff, the hard stuff, that impresses itself on us. Because we get freeze-framed into that because it is such a shock to our natural order of our systems, the innocent, beautiful nature of our being, when something hard or difficult happens. You know, it's like when you get startled, you know, when somebody comes up, it happens to me quite a lot when I'm intense and you're focused, and then someone says, oh, and you go, ah, I didn't hear you coming. You know that feeling that, oh. Well, when stuff hits the fan, and you happen to be standing in front of the fan, and it hits you, you'll reel from it. Your impression, you'll stop. And what that can do is lock you into something. Lock you into that negative response. And it stays in the cellular memory, as well as particularly in the emotional or mental memory. So that, I'm taking this back to our callings, so that when you do get still, and you start to listen, and you know, God doesn't always use it. What? We still use this, even though now, I guess in about 5 years, we'll never use this again unless we're doing a revival of Bye Bye Birdie. We will never use this, we'll always use this, right? It's still, I think, where's John? It's still the ASL symbol of phone, but when we get our calling, our spiritual calling, the nudge from God, the nudge, as Dr. Jung said, about what in our past calls for us, that when we get that calling, and we go, oh yes, 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 that's what I want to do, what I want to be, where I want to go. Oh my God, I can't do that because the last time I tried that, all hell broke loose. Because our cellular, mental, spiritual memory goes, danger, danger, Will Robinson, if you follow that calling, you will be broke. If you follow that calling, no one will love you. You'll have to be alone. I bet you can fill in some of those. So the tendency is we don't listen. We don't want to hear our callings because innately we want to answer them, which means we want to do things, which may mean change in our lives in order to follow that. And we don't want to do that because everything's like, okay right now. Okay? It's like, okay right now. I know this. This is all familiar. And there may be challenges in this, difficulties, negativities, things that we'd like different, but at least we know this. Right? We all know what that's like. When we live with something that's disconcerting to us, or to the point of discomfort and pain, but if we change it, then we're afraid it's going to be worse. There's so much. Mary Mana Morrissey says that she calls them dreams. Mr. Roy calls them callings. But they speak to us in two ways. Through our longing, oh, I want to be, or our discontent. Oh, I hate this. Although I try not to use the word hate. I really don't hate, but it's a common vernacular. So either way, whether your calling is coming to you from that passion and that desire, or I have got to get out of this place or I'm going to go nuts, you have to pay attention to that. You have to heed that call. And Matthew Fox writes, if you get cut off from your passion, where is your compassion going to come from? Where is your compassion going to come from if you shut off the valve to your passion? It's not. Mr. Leroy writes, those who refuse their passions and purposes in life, who are afraid of what they perhaps already are, unhappy, will not, of course, experience the unrest or the joy that usually accompanies the embrace of a calling. Having attempted nothing, they haven't failed, and they can console themselves that if none of their dreams come true, then at least neither will their nightmares. Now that may not be as potent to you as it is obviously to me. Because some of you may be thinking, oh, I'm past the age of a calling. I'm in retirement, or I've accomplished this or that, and I feel good about that. And yes, you can and do. This isn't to say you haven't done enough, because if anything, I try and stand up here in one way or another to say to you, you are enough. You have enough. There is enough. So much so that if you own that, really own that, then you will know that when you do get still and quiet, and if the first duty of love is to listen, and you love yourself and God enough to listen, then you will know that you have enough to answer the call, even if it's a new call, even if it's a smaller call, because you have retired or you have accomplished the initial childhood call and longing. We each have a call, and perhaps that call is to be still and know God and expand your spiritual practice. Perhaps that calling is simply to be of service, to step up and serve others, whether here at the center or one of the bazillion opportunities that exist in our community, to being of service, or it could mean being more of service to your grandchildren. I don't know your calls, but I know you have them. I know you have them. And how I know is, well, two ways. One, a lot of you come in my office and I know that. And you share it with me. And I know that since we are one, and since I have chosen this interesting occupation of being minister, teacher, leader, person thing, that mostly what I do, maybe uniquely me and a few of my colleagues, is I'm sort of one of those, like a sounding board reflector. I actually vibrate to what's going on here. So what I'm feeling, I know is not just me feeling it, it's the receptivity of the greater call. I don't know if that made any sense, but I know that if I'm experiencing something, chances are there are enough of you in this room or within our community that are, and that's why we have to pay attention. Mary Menamorsi goes on to say that it is critical you choose your calling and the right dream to pursue. Your calling needs to be worthy of you and align with your values. And how you will recognize your call is that it's just going to make you feel right. You suddenly, the shoulders go down, you almost feel a beatific smile upon your face, your body goes, and sometimes there's even those happy butterflies, and oh, I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to get up till tomorrow morning. I have to wait till tomorrow to do that? Going back to that childhood idea and enthusiasm of listening to your call instead of, oh yeah, tomorrow, Monday, snooze button. What are you hearing in your heads? I know that it's not easy in this world, the cacophony of this industrial technological age. There is so much going on for each of us, so much available to each of us. The information age and the internet is extraordinary, but sometimes a few of us can be overwhelmed by it. There are so many choices, so many, for those of you with ADD, so many squirrels. So many sparkly things to, kind of catch your attention, to distract you. And it's so easy to get distracted from your call. And if you get really skilled at this, what happens is you create distractions that are really worthy and valuable, really wonderful, that call you over here to pay attention. It's not just little squirrels and sparkly things. There are things, people, places, and things that really call to you and you go, well, no, I can't answer my call right now. I'm over here doing this. I'm needed here. And then you feel like, that magnet is pulling you back here because you know that, yes, you can do that, but you're not listening to your call. And perhaps your call is here, and yes, that person, thing, or another does need you, and maybe you can add assistance, prayer, support, whatever, and maybe it's for you to be aware of that, know a higher truth through prayer, and maybe delegate someone else to do that, so that you do not ignore your call. Am I the only one that this is resonating to? You guys are often quiet. It's big stuff. That's why we're kind of looking at it for 2 months. The Callings book and then the next book, Vital Signs, that he's talking about, it doesn't allow me to be complacent, and it isn't allowing me to do same old, same old. I'm having to do the work. I'm having to listen. Listen. I guess that's the human way of saying listening, and then there's the spiritual kind of Eastern way. I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening. Dr. Waldberg, no, I say it backwards, Johnny, forgive me, gentlemen. Dr. Waldman and Newberg, the white coat experts that are always in the Science of Mind magazine, they have an article every month about brain and whatever they're doing. They have an exercise that they recommend that you do every day. And it says, in order to pay attention to who you are and what's going on and ignore the negative stuff, the 90% where we go back to, oh, I can't, I shouldn't. They suggest that you do something that to me is very akin to, remember when you were a kid and you get ready to sleep and you count your blessings? Write down 5 successes you've had over the day and savor them. Now the reason, that's a really critical part. Many of you do, you've done workshops, you've been in this movement for a long time. You can write down 5 successful things you've done over the day and say, the idea being is as you look at it, write it down, even if you check it off, which does give you a certain gratification. I don't understand that, but it does. Savor them, meaning tap into them. What about that felt good to you? So that the emotional and kinesthetic quality of that activity that you felt accomplished by takes place in your cosmology and your brain. Second thing they say is write at least 3 things for which you feel deep gratitude. See, counting your blessings. Now, most of us have our typical counting blessings. Thank you for our home, our family, the kids, the fresh water, etc. And some of those, of course, you still feel deep gratitude. I'm not at all discounting that. I'm just saying you may have had something today that just really, you were just so, like Kyle. I am deeply grateful to you for the clarity to just say, have you thought of the other computer? Not only will you sleep better by doing this, you'll notice that, but in about, 3 months they say your self-esteem is going to increase. Now, why is that important? Because if you're feeling that your self-esteem is in place, if you're feeling confident, then chances are when you do hear your calling and you want to take those steps towards it, you won't shut down from the 90% of the memories that do a slideshow in front of your brain to say, oh, no, don't do that, don't try it. It's too late, you're too old, you don't have enough money, it'll never work. Usually falls in one of those categories, doesn't it? Oh, I can't do that, I don't have enough money. I can't do that, I'm too old. Nobody's going to pay attention to me if I do that. Leave it to the whippersnappers. Do they say that anymore? Or I don't have the time because I have all of these distractions over here. I'm going to share that because Don's smiling in the background. Am I going to share that? Yes, I am. Thank you, Don. Mr. Big. Thank you, Mr. Big. We were watching one of a television show that I've been a fan of for a long time, and one of the things that we get to do because our schedules are such these days that it's like a treat to come home and we're mandated by our dog to sit on the bed and watch something, the three, and then Bo joins us, the four of us. I can't even go into why that's essential, but she mandates that. So we get a chance, and so we were watching one of our episodes of this show, and the woman in there who is a neurosurgeon was about to do this extraordinary brain thing that nobody's ever done and save this woman's life, blah, blah, blah. And so she stands there as her superhero. And she said, now again, it's coming from a TV teleplay thing, but she said that her research, or someone told her, that there have been scientific studies saying that if you stand in your superhero pose for about 5 minutes per day, you're all giggling, but I know you're going to try it. If you stand in your superhero pose for about 5 minutes a day, get still and listen to the hero or heroine within you, you're poised and ready. So those of you who don't want to do the homina practices that some of us weird folks do, or you don't want to, or you don't think you have 10 or 15 or 30 minutes to sit in your meditation practice, or you think you're actually going to hear an answer if you start to meditate and tell you what to do, at least, I know this is goofy, they can't take away my license, I'm ordained, but I would suggest that perhaps, not the most obvious spiritual practices, but maybe you just need to do that. Get in touch with who you are, maybe what your calling is, and if you start to feel that, I can't, fluff it off, get rid of it, and stand there. And when you get really brave, really brave, hence that song, then I'll encourage you to do Louise Hay's work, where she says the most potent work you can do is mirror work. No, not that! Because, I don't know about you these days, but when I look in the mirror, different things look back at me. They weren't there 2, 5, 7 years ago, etc., etc. So I tend to get distracted by what I see in the mirror and miss what I see in the mirror. So when you get really good at this, try doing it in the mirror. I haven't gotten there yet, so I'll let you know how it works. I still get distracted when I look in the mirror, so I don't know, maybe I need to put on like a better costume when I stand there and do that. And then you begin to believe, but really, with all that goofiness, what is that about? Because you know I'm going to approach things from a lighter, happier, funner way, because all of the research and all of the Eastern mystics really support that, which is if you can get yourself emotionally into that vibrational feeling of joy, that's when you're going to start to manifest. That's when you're going to start to feel, picture, all that stuff starts to happen. But when you're saying, I am whole, perfect, and complete, I am one with God, my good is here and now, and in here you're going, I can't answer the call, I can't go there, I don't know what to do, I'm hurting, it'll never work, blah, 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 blah. You're giving cross purposes to the universe. Remember the scarecrow? Frank Baum was a mystic, by the way. Ooh, green, emerald green. See, I get this. Squirrely things. And what I've learned, instead of the years of beating myself up about that and judging myself for my own precocity, I now go, oh, okay, I just got distracted. What does that allow me to do? A, it allows me to appreciate my favorite color. And B, I breathe and I come back into this moment. So those of you who join me with that label of ADD or ADHD, I don't even know what it is anymore, what the effective one is. If you have been beating yourself up about that, instead start to remind yourself, train yourself, give yourself permission to know that you're just on a higher vibration to call yourself back to mindfulness. Does that work? Did you buy that? Okay, worked. All right. So much. Mary Mana Morrissey, in her Dream Builder Toolkit, says that the first question you need to ask yourself when you're saying, what is my calling, is not how am I going to make that happen, but why. And so it echoes exactly what Mike Dooley, the gentleman who does Thoughts from the Universe, those of you now know who he is, he has a whole section of books and material, and he says it in his daily universe notes. Do not get stuck in the cursed hows, H-O-W-S, how. Because what happens is if we do start to listen to our calling, we go, okay, I know I really want to do this. How am I going to make that happen? How will I get there? How will I fund it? All the hows, that's not our charge. That's up to the Spirit. God gets to do that. So what she says, because he doesn't give you this piece, is we need to get into the why. Why do I want to follow that calling? What is it about that tickles my fancy, lights my fire, gets my passion going? When I start to understand the why, which matches what the white-coated doctors at the magazine article said, which is that you need to savor those 5 successes today. And that means why? Why did that feel successful? Why did I enjoy that? What was so good about that? When you get in touch with that, then you are starting to rewire the mechanism of the brain. And we go back to what we taught last year, and what Dr. Johnny teaches in her class, her brain class, is about the rewiring of the brain, because the brain it's kind of a catch-22. The brain will tell the emotions, oh no, this is a dangerous, scary thing, so the emotions start to go, oh no, I can't do it, I won't follow it. Or we answer the call, we see or hear something, and then emotions go, oh, that's it. Oh, no, I can't do it. Remember when I did it in 10th grade and everybody laughed at me? No, I can't do it. So the emotions then tell the brain, no, don't do it. You can't do that, Colin. Stay where you are. Do not take another step. Do not go out of the house. So the brain will feed the emotions feeds the brain. We've got a nice little hamster wheel circle going on, and what we have to do, being the mindful religious scientists that we are, we have to change the wiring. We have to stop that pattern. And how do we do that? God does it through us. Why do we do that? Because what's the end of that old Mickey Mouse thing? Why? Because
we like you.
Yep. We get to listen to our call. We get to know that the first duty of love is to listen. Whether it's to listen to our child, whether it's to listen to our beloved spouse or our partner, but mostly it's to listen to ourselves. And when I say selves, I mean the small s of selves within the capital S self of the self of God, to listen. That is our charge. We're really wired to do that. And we've spent eons, decades as this culture undoing that, and now we have to learn how to go back to that. And it's essential. I encourage you again, even if your calling is to maybe just take a class at Ollie and learn a new language, learn a new topic, to expand and grow. And maybe it is the bigger calling of following your dream, your goal, your passion that you have yet to outpicture. Maybe your calling is to take care of, as I said, your child or your grandchild. You will each identify it. And there is no major judging system of small or large, or, oh, that's a really good calling, or, I don't know so much about that. It's yours. And when you listen to it, and then when you do get in touch with it, and then you start to get in touch with why it calls to you, oh, the mysteries of the ages will start to come to you again. You're going to go back and remember that infinite being, that's where we kind of all turn into that oneness again, because it's the call of God within each of us that brought us onto this planet, into this form, for a reason. I'm inviting you, I'm imploring myself, but I'm inviting you to pay attention to that. And then to have enough courage to do the things that we need to do on the external side to keep ourselves, grounded, breathing, supported, focused, to listen and pay attention and heed those calls. I have a quote at the end of my emails. I try and change, I always have, we have quotes anyway, but I have a new quote on my emails every so often. And as I was sending myself the talk this morning, I noticed it. I hadn't read it for a while. See, we all gloss over. I have the quote right there in front of me, and I send out at least 300 to 700 emails a day. So it's right there. And I hadn't read it for a while. Rachel Snyder writes, prove that you are always who you thought you were, not who they said you had to be. I will. Prove that you were always who you thought you were, not who they said you had to be. Because even if they, whoever the they is in your lives, they were well-meaning, whether it was parents, grandparents, somebody, whoever raised you, a beloved teacher, they were, I pretty much feel that 97% of that was well-intended. But they were coming from their stuff. They're coming from doing the best that they could do, and maybe they were squashed with their callings, or they were taught that you're not allowed to be your authentic self. You're not allowed, women are not allowed to do this kind of work. The women in the room know what I'm talking about. When you grow up and it's like, yeah, well, that's the guys. Well, that's pretty much not the case anymore. Thank you. In our society, we don't even think of that. We've got women gearing up to line up to run for president, and there. Did you know there are female ministers working? Oh. Who'd have thought? So the they that were in our lives were trying to teach us, coach us to do the best they could to protect us, usually out of their 90% of fear because of their experiences where they got squashed or hurt or scared or shut down. So when their little loved ones come in front of them, they're going, oh, no, don't go over there, it's dangerous. And you go, okay, because we love them, we trust them, and so we don't. They were doing the best they could. And I absolutely believe that when any of us, all of us, as each of us individually, when we do our work, and I mean our work, our spiritual work, the work on ourselves, to thine own self be true, thank you, Mr. Shakespeare. When we do our own work, and we make the difference, and we change the cause to create a new effect, we're not only doing it for ourselves, we are doing it for them. Because we're one. We may not have the luxury of having the parents, the grandparents, the teacher, the people in our lives who taught us to be able to say to them, I got it. We don't have to do it that way anymore. We get to do it this way. We may not be able to physically tell them, but we are changing that DNA, the genetics, and the legacy that we were given, that we were birthed into, that we chose to come into, and that we now have a chance to give out here to the world. But first and foremost, to ourselves. Okie dokie, Dutch. I don't know if I can go anymore. There's tons of stuff. There's more. Obviously I endorse this book. I have more quotes and all of that, but somehow I can't. Whatever it takes to pay attention, to listen to the love within you. Whatever it takes to hear the calling and know how to respond to that. Well, not how, because that's God's, but why you want to respond to that. And then allow Spirit to reveal to you the steps and the actions that need to be taken before that. That's one of the things that a spiritual community is here for. So that you're not walking that path alone. So that every time you need a breath, there's somebody who's right there to remind you. Every time you need a drink of water and you need to rest and stop, someone says, that's okay. No one's judging you. There isn't a time frame that you have to get to your calling by a certain day or time. And every time you're walking the path and you see a squirrel or something sparkly, that you have someone who will smile and just guide you back on the road with prayer, with spiritual entreatment, perhaps with a hug or a laugh, and a breath to bring us all back into this oneness, to the calling of God that is within us, each of us, which brought us not only to this center today or whenever, but brought us into this form, this life, this moment now. May we pray, please. Oh, infinite presence, how great thou art. And one of the things for which I am deeply and eternally grateful every single day is that You are always there, surrounding me, supporting me, being me. That I need only stop, pause, breathe, and remember. And then I mindfully come into this moment. And the minute that I do, all of heaven opens unto me, by which I can stand in co-creation with God to know my good, my calling, my gift. And I also know that when and as I do that, I make it possible for others to know that they can do that. I don't do it for them. And it's not my charge to do my work so that they can. I do the work for the oneness of God as me. And I do indeed stand tall and clear in that infinite, eternal truth that has been spoken and written about for the ages, no matter what religion, no matter what century, whether it's a poet, if it's Rumi, or if it's Ernest Holmes, or even if it's something contemporary like Katy Perry singing to us to say what you want to say, be brave, be authentic, be who you are. So my prayer today is simply to acknowledge that, give thanks for that, and then if there is anything upon which I'm asking, it would be to continue to have the support systems, the reminders, the tools, the community, that I'm okay right where I am, that there is enough, I have enough, because I am enough. And therefore, all else will be added unto me and thee. And that's the magic of it. Thank you, Infinite Spirit, that you have loved me enough to just hang back and always be there so that I can listen with love and hear the call. The call that brought me here in the first place. I say yes. I say yes. I say yes. I let that settle within my being, because I know that as I spoke it in the first person for myself, I am speaking it as the one. And I allow the power and the delicacy of this to just saturate into the creative mind, into the creative law, to make the changes both chemically and organically within my brain wiring as well as externally around me, and to know that I am on my path, heeding the call from my heart. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I breathe this in, now I release it. I let it go, because remember, it's not up to me. I have just turned it over to what is lovingly known as the higher power. I release it into that. I give thanks that that is so, and what I ask all of you to do is to join me as we say,